You know, Photoshop World is all about learning, and you go to these classes in track A, B, and C. That's fantastic. You think you're going to take a lunch, but then you go to a bonus session, and after you stick around at the end of the days of classes, you'll find there are even more bonus sessions like this one. This is a great bonus session, and it really is deep learning. Now, one of the cool things, this is sponsored by Platypod, and it's actually featuring the inventor of the Platypod and the CEO of the company Platypod, Dr. Larry Tiefenbrun, and also a special guest in his studio, Freddie Clark. Now, here's what the challenge was. Dr. T knows lots of great professional photographers who are not food photographers. And he reached out to these wonderful folks and he said, you know, go ahead and take some food photography and send it to us, and then we'll take this as a pro shooter but not a pro food photographer. And then Freddie Clark, the pro food photographer, will have a look at it and do some critiquing. And I have given you all the setup you need to understand you're about to learn a lot at every level about food photography from Dr. Larry Tiefenbrun and Freddie Clark. Guys, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to Photoshop World. Earlier on, we had some glitches, and glad you stuck around to watch the show, and we promise not to disappoint. We're going to have some amazing photos. Freddie is a professional food and beverage photographer. He's also a teacher at the Princeton workshops, and I think you're going to learn a lot from Freddie. We've got images from 15 of our Platypod Pro non-food photographers, just like Larry said, who have contributed images, and let's move right ahead and see what we've got. All right. And again, welcome to the Kelby 2024 Photoshop World Conference. We're really so excited to be here. And again, this presentation is called Food Photography for Non-Food Photographers. So I'm going to jump right into our first image from Platypod Pro, Dave Williams, out in Norway, with this beautiful image of some smoked salmon from the Taste of Lofoten in Norway. Freddie, what do you have to say about this image?
What I like about this shot is it's not just food, it's also environmental. So not only do we get a great diner's eye view of that piece of salmon, which looks amazing, but he's given us the environment around it. So we see the dish, we see the table, we see the preparation, we see the ingredients. And this is a really good example of including more than just the hero, right? Having enough around it to put it in place. I mean, you feel like you can just sit down and sit down at this restaurant, grab a spoon and dig right in.
And you'll see the behind the scenes shot. Freddie, any comment on the lighting here?
Well, I mean, he's definitely got some light coming in from camera left. I do like the candles. It does add a little bit. And when you look at the shot coming in, you got a nice gleam of that salmon. And food photography is all about angles, right? Just like anything else. If you slam your light right at the axis of the lens, you're going to get a flat image. You're not going to get contrast. You're not going to see the glisten. You're not going to see the textures. So the way he lit this is beautiful in that it gives you that side light. It gives you the ability to really see the texture, see the glisten, and almost taste it with your eyes.
So here you see what you can do with some ambient lighting, and we're going to also talk about using artificial lighting. But let's show a little bit more with ambient lighting. And this is an image or a set of images brought to us by Samantha Kennedy, another Platypod Pro, who is the queen, who I call the queen of the sunrise, doing landscape photography, but she took up the challenge and all done with natural light. Freddie, what do you think here?
I mean, look at those tomatoes, right? You can see the light hitting them. It's getting a nice highlight even across the tomato sauce. You get a nice highlight across the top of it. And what I really like about this set of them is you're really telling a story, right? You're not just giving us one piece. You're not just giving us the prep of the sauce. You're taking us through the prep of the sauce, by cutting up and working the tomatoes. You're giving us the sauce, and then you're giving us, I guess, dessert, some peaches, right? So, really nicely done, putting it together in a with the 3 images to give the story of what's happening.
I think she's also using some interesting color contrast here, contrasting the red with the blue. It's a great color set that she's got that all seems to work very, very well together with her complementary colors. And by the way, guys, make sure you stick around to the very end here, because Freddie's going to summarize some of his 7 best tips for food photography all together. But we'll present them also as we go through the images. Now, you can see Samantha's setup here made very, very easy. You can either put your camera on the countertop with a Platypod. She's used our Platypod Extreme and handle. If you're not familiar with this equipment, go to our website, take a look. In some of our other presentations, we've presented the equipment in a lot of detail. We're going to show you some equipment because, hey, that's how we're able to pay for these presentations. But we want to get into the pictures even more. You can also shoot these from a tripod. Here, Samantha's got her Platypod mounted on a tripod or on the Platypod. Platypod is now exclusively sold by B&H Photo, and you can head over there for a nice discount on that. Let's go to the next picture. Okay, guys, get ready to get hungry, okay? This is from Platypod Pro and Nikon ambassador Joey Terrell. Joey is a master of all kinds of photography, but he specializes in macro, and I encourage you to go see his work. And we're going to tell you later on how to see the work of all of our Platypod pros from our website. But Larry, I think you have some comments here from Joey, so I'll let you take it away and tell us those comments.
Yeah, and please keep the image on the screen, because the last thing you need to see is my face while you can be listening about these great pieces of photography. Joey actually wrote us a comment about this, and it says, "My goal was to make the gelatin on the top layer of the cheesecake, the strawberry with the gold leaf, and the raspberry all look irresistible. I also wanted to use the circular pattern on the plate and the glistening fork in the background as a frame for the cheesecake. I learned that if you're bad at food styling like me, the next best choice is to find great subjects from somebody who is like a local bakery. I don't often," and he puts in parentheses, "ever shoot food, but this was a fun challenge, especially during a West Coast heat wave." That's from our friend Joey Terrell.
So take it away, Freddie. Let's hear your comments on here, and I have some thoughts of my own when you're done.
I love the fact that as a macro photographer, he went right in onto the cheesecake. Not only does this scream to me macro, but you can see his own aesthetic in it, right? By getting really close, getting on top of the cheesecake, even cutting off the bottom, not necessary to have it, because you see the top, you see the interesting part, you see where the interest really lies. And the way he lit it, coming from, it looks like camera right from the back, you get that side contrasty view, you get that glisten that I was talking about. You're not going to get this light from shooting, with your light straight ahead or above it, or from the front. This is what you get from coming in the side, and just look how beautiful and tasty it looks.
And you'll see in a minute what Freddie's talking about with backlighting, but I do want to point out some compositional elements over here. Number one, take a look how Joey is using concentric circles. So he starts off with this little gold leaf, this confectionery applique here, then goes out to the strawberry, another circle, and then the topping over here, and then the cheesecake itself. Now you've got a ring from the plate, another ring from the plate, and all these concentric circles lead your eye all around here. And in fact, some of you may even notice kind of a Fibonacci pattern over here. If you don't know what that is, Google it and look it up. And then the fork in the back with the napkin just gives you a background, a setting, an atmosphere for all of this. And please take note in the next image of what Freddie's talking about with lighting from the side or the rear. So important over here. Freddie, you want to comment on the setup over here, please?
I mean, look, he's got his key light coming in from the back. There you go. Well, yeah. So he's got that. He looks like he's got a nice big reflector going on. He's got that piece of white plastic as a reflector. He's beaming his light through. Looks like he's got like a mirror kicking that back to fill in the front, and then he's even got a little highlight light in the back left to just probably kick in a little bit more light onto those strawberries. So he spent a lot of time working his light. He's got soft light, he's got reflection, and he's got a little pinpoint light. So really well done.
A few other little comments here. We call this image of cake with a cookie. The cookie is a cucaloris. It's hard to see here because it's very bright, but what it's doing is it gives dappled light that's spreading all the way over here, making a very, very interesting light. And one little pitch for Platypod here. You can see how Joey's got his whole rig on a Platypod, but what he's done is he's taken some carpet glides and attached them into the spiked feet of the Platypod. His surface on his table is a carpet, and he can very easily move this entire rig around just to position everything perfectly for his image.
I love that idea. I'm going to steal that.
Thank you. All right, next image from Lenworth Johnson here. Guys, ready for the next course, and that is wings and fries.
We're a little backwards, dessert versus dinner. I mean, look, I love wings. They're a great thing to shoot. You've got so much texture in there. You've got so much glisten between the skin of the chicken and the sauce coming off of them. I mean, just really well done with making those wings pop. And then the French fry. Basically what he's doing here with his aperture is he's really telling us where he wants us to look, right? So the French fries going a little bit out of focus. They're not the hero. They're not the main story. You're really looking at those wings, and that's where he wants you to bring your eye.
And you can see the setup that Lenworth did. I think he's using mostly overhead light and a little bit of a kickback of the light with that reflector that he's holding over there. Beautiful image. All right, Freddie, I know you love this shot. Go ahead.
This is a great shot. So Jesse, the toy guy, I love repetition. Where you see multiples of any one thing. And what he really excelled at with this one is, there's a ton of cupcakes in this photo, right? There's 4 cupcakes that you can see along the front, but you know exactly where he wants you to look, right? He used his selective focus. He used a wide open aperture, and he's telling you, there's 4 cupcakes in the front and a bunch in the back, but that second one is where I want your eyes to go. And part of being a photographer, it's not just lighting well, and you want the stuff to look good. You want a stylist a lot of the times, but you want to really guide your viewer through the image, and he does a great job of that.
And to help you with that, he gives you some leading lines. So you've got this line coming up here, taking you through the 3 cupcakes, and the lines over here pushing you over and getting your eye just where he wants to be. And he did a bunch of different images, but I think this is the one that really pops, and that's where your hero shot is. And you can see the setup that Jesse used over here in his lovely kitchen, and lighting with some soft bounce lighting. So he's taking a Platypod with a LumaCube Panel Pro, bouncing off of a card, coming back onto the surface of these cupcakes, giving you just this beautiful soft light here. Next image is from Rick Salmon, who's, I guess there's some salmon in there too. Rick did this beautiful image and a study of a sushi dinner. You got a close-up over here up in the corner, but the setting overall, this beautiful, lovely setting that is shot in a low-key fashion. We'll talk a little bit more about low-key versus high-key, and just this lighting coming out from an angle, showing you Rick's setup. And by using a light that's handheld, he can place that light wherever he wants and get the shadows wherever he wants. And this image was shot, as Rick is doing with many of his images these days, with an iPhone. Larry, could I ask you to read Rick's comments on this image?
I am ready to roll. Rick actually says, "Hey, sushi and Platypod lovers. here's the short behind-the-scenes story of our most recent food photography photo session, inspired by our dear friend Larry T., inventor of the Platypod gear and an avid photographer. Our goal was to photograph one of our delicious sushi dinners, keeping it very simple, yet striving for creative and dramatic lighting. So, we decided to use our iPhones in camera raw mode, along with the Platypod Extreme, a handle, and a grip. For lighting, we chose to use a small flashlight with a piece of tissue paper taped to the light for a softbox effect.
So I am going to just break out here for a minute. And I'd like to show all of you a little bit of equipment because we're here to talk about gear also. This is a brand new kit that we've assembled at the recommendation of Rick Salmon, and this is actually now called the Rick Salmon Smartphone Close-Up Kit. I know it's a mouthful, but hey, it's a food presentation. Why shouldn't it be a mouthful? And what's really cool is this is what can get you started in food photography. Now, the kit does not come with an iPhone, and it does not come with a fork, but it's to show you what you can do. So what's included in the kit, first of all, is a Platypod Extreme as your base plate. And this has a repositionable feet on here, which you can use on a surface, or you can just put it flat onto a surface too. Then on top of that, we're mounting the iPhone holder called the Platypod Grip. And you can see that right there. And then Rick has in the front here a Platypod elbow. The elbow is really cool because you can, let's get this a little closer in. Okay, with this elbow, you can turn one knob and position 3 joints here and rotate everything to put your object just where you want to. And Rick's got on here also a Platypod mini clamp, and that's what's holding the fork over here. All right, and I think you can see that pretty well here, just holding the fork right there. Then, to hold up the lights, we've got 2 goosenecks, and that's right over here, 2 goosenecks, which are easily bendable and repositionable, and they are stackable, so you can make a 21-inch gooseneck if you want to, and you can add to these. Then, to top it off, we've got 2 lights on here. First of all, a LumaCube cube light. Let's get that on over here. And you can see how that provides a nice bright light. Now that's the lowest setting. This goes a whole lot brighter than that. All right. And on this side, we've got a LumaCube Panel Pro, which can be operated right from your smartphone, or there's controls on board, and it has a panel in the back which can show you all those controls. But what's really cool about this light is not only can you turn it on from your phone, but you can take it from a plain white light, cool or warm light. You can also do all kinds of colors: red, green, blue, yellow, and just about everything in between. So this will get you started for food and for macro, and you just get your phone on there and you're ready to shoot. And if you want to, like I said, you can add on a Platypod handle to this to make it even taller. You can add on more goosenecks, more elbows to hold reflectors, mirrors, all kinds of objects. The price on this is really incredible. I will send you over to the Platypod website, and if you add on more things to this purchase, you can also qualify for our instant loyalty rebates program, which Larry will mention a little bit more later. Also, I want to show you something else that you can do for overhead food photography, and if you pass me that. Here's something that you can do using the kit that we talked about, plus 2 of the Platypod handles, one used vertically, and then a ball head, any ball head in between. We have this one positioned out about 45, 40 degrees out here. And then a second handle, which can be further extended if you want to. Now you have a rig, which you can take to a restaurant if you want to, put out any dish on the table, and be able to shoot from there. You just take your camera, and here I've got a nice heavy camera with my favorite macro lens, which is the Nikon 60mm macro, and you can shoot nice and sturdy without having to have tripods on the floor for customers to trip over. Works really, really well. So for those of you who we've stimulated to do food photography and end up wanting to go professional, this is a really, really great rig that you can use. And now we will get back into our presentation, and I've got a yummy, yummy picture coming up next. Take a look at that. Go ahead, take it. Well, first of all, you know what? I'm going to let Larry read the comments from Dave the Bear Maker, who's also a toy photographer, who decided to do some food. And Larry, take it away.
Yep, I love this image. Dave said, I like to tell stories with my photography, and I wanted to do the same with this shot. However, stories of just food are harder to come by than my normal subject matter. So, after much brainstorming, I came up with the idea of a muffin on a mirror with the top muffin having a bite out of it and the reflected muffin, he says the reflected one, remaining intact, like some sort of a mirror dimension. It's not much of a story, but perhaps enough to get the viewer to give a second look. I shot it on a piece of clear acrylic that was painted black on the bottom, making a black mirror lit by 2 LumiCube panel lights, held up by various Platypod gear as appropriate for my rather small studio. The photo was shot on a Sony 6400 with a Sony 35mm macro lens. I took 2 shots, the first of the muffin intact, then the second shot of the muffin with a bite out of it. I made the bite with my fingers so the muffin wouldn't move between the 2 different shots. Then I combined the 2 in Photoshop, and I added a couple of textures to the piece to match my preferred style. Finally, as a reward for this job, I ate the muffin. It was delicious.
Thank you, Larry. And gosh, I think there's stuff to talk about here, about texture, about lighting, plus the special effects. Freddie, take it away.
Look, and I'll start with the fact that eating and drinking your hero after the fact is always the best part of the shoot, always. So this is what I really like about this is one of my tips is make use of all your resources, right? Food photography, you don't have to catch everything in camera. It's usually not an editorial situation. Sometimes it is, and then you have to get it all in camera. But what is nice is when you can make use of things like Photoshop here, right? To create this dual image, right? To create that false reflection, right? So using things like Photoshop, video backgrounds, video screens, AI now, right? You can make use of all these things to make more compelling and telling a story, make those stories even more interesting. I mean, look, the lighting is really good. He's got the texture. You see the crumbs all the way through. He did a really good job controlling his focus throughout. And just, a really fun image and really creative and really well executed.
And you can see all the BTS work here. And again, cannot overemphasize enough, when you want to bring out texture in that food shot, like Freddie just said, you've got to look at this upper right picture, light it from behind. You can always kick back a little light in the front or fill it in the front, but your main light should come from behind or a little off to the side and get that texture in the food. That's what really makes it look scrumptious, and get up close to it, which also. So we're going to show you something now a little bit different. And Freddie talked about storytelling. Go ahead, Freddie.
This is fantastic. The story here, we've all seen kids digging into a cupcake or a piece of cake, right? It's just what Judy did here is fantastic. It tells a story that I think everyone can relate to. This kid enjoying the heck out of this cupcake. And just the fun, the joy, that expression in that middle shot of her looking up in the ceiling with, I guess, anticipating. And I do like the fact that she saves the cream to last. That's good.
And Judy is primarily a portrait photographer, but you see how she took the challenge and incorporated her portrait talent right into
and having portrait skills is real important, because if you're going to do professional work, you're going to have to shoot chefs and bartenders and people involved in the restaurants. So having that skill set is only going to help you.
And look, Judy wanted to get a little bit more height. Now, I would have told her to use her Platypod handle to get a little extra height. But hey, you can improvise. And she did this all on a tabletop and got everything ready just to get the shot right. Kids move around fast, and to be able to have a stable camera there really helps to get a nice sharp image. Let's look at the next one, because sorry for all you vegetarians out there, but I'm a steak lover. Now, there's a lot of positive to say, but we have a constructive critique over here on this image for those shooting food, especially when you're shooting for advertising. Freddie?
So I'll start with the shot on the left, though, first. I love the motion. Right. I love the pouring of the seasoning down and catching it in mid-flight. That's really well done. I would guess, hazard a guess, they did it with flash, because that's really hard to do with constant light. And then in the second shot, the one to the right, the only thing is, if you're selling that seasoning, you need to have that. You need to have that wording in focus, right? If this is a product shot, not just a food shot, where we're selling that craft bourbon barrel steak seasoning, you're going to want to see it. And what I usually do is, if I'm not selling that seasoning, if that's not the product, I will tear off the labels so they just don't become distracting. So usually when you have a label, let's see it, let's get it in focus. But if not, take the labels off. You'll still know it's a seasoning jar, and you'll still get the same impact.
Otherwise, I think what Brett did accomplish here, he wanted to de-emphasize this. So another way to de-emphasize is just decrease the lighting, but really bring attention to your main subject. But look at the texture of the seasoning on the steak over here, and I think he brought that out beautifully. It's a really beautiful, sharp image here. Brett is an aviation photographer, and he made something fly in
He
here.
had some flight.
That's all the
He had some flight. Yeah.
And thank you, Brett, and look forward to Brett and myself appearing on the grid in the next few months, where he will show off his aviation photography expertise. All right. Next is also from Brett, with some salmon and also a beverage shot. And I think, Freddie, you have some comments on both of these.
Yeah. So the lighting.
1 second before you do, I just want to show the BTS for these beverage shots, and then let's go back and talk about it.
So with the beverage shot, with the looks like it might be an old fashioned. The nice thing about tabletop photography, food photography, is you live in a small space, 3x5, 4x6 tops usually, and you can create whatever environment you're after, right? So as you saw in the BTS, he did not shoot this in a bar, right? But by stacking up some bottles at the end of his table, you can imply a bar very easily, right? Back in my studio, I've got rubber mats, I've got coasters, I've got stirrers and stuff, things you would find on a bar. So you can create your environment, create your world, and it's really simple to do, because all you have to do is fill that small space. So really well done. I love the lighting he's got on that glass. You got nice gradient light coming across the glass, giving it shape, showing that it is three-dimensional.
How do you achieve that gradient light best for our audience?
Yeah, diffusion. Diffuse. Right? So diffuse that light, either light panels, or you can use reflectors. You can use pieces of plastic.
Yeah, here's one idea that, you can just get a sheet of translucent acrylic and you can shoot your light right through there and just put this real close to your subject. It's going to look like you have window light right next to it. And that's a nice trick that we've done in the past, or just bounce it off of something.
So and I mean the salmon shot is, look, we've said this before. You've got the glisten. The Brussels sprouts are not in focus. They don't need to be, right? If the salmon's the hero, if the salmon's what you're aiming for, the salmon just in focus enough is plenty.
All right, and our next image is from Matt Seuss, who's an Olympus ambassador and landscape photographer. We've shown some of Matt's images in our previous conferences, and let's talk about this again and the story and all that.
The storytelling is brilliant, right? I mean, you've got the steak on the grill, the flame coming up through it. That burst of flame, you know exactly what's going on. The melting
I think he
butter.
Squirted some lighter fluid.
Yeah, probably. Look, you do what you got to do. You do whatever it takes. Then the veggies grilling. I mean, just telling a great story throughout the entire prep of the meal. Like this, you could see this in a like a cooking school type of scenario, right? Where you're showing how you prep. And look, I mean, the fact that this guy took his camera outside, I hope his grill was outside, and set everything up on the wing of the grill with his Platypod, with his camera, with his I mean, just amazing, just well done. Just getting in there, doing whatever it takes to get the shot. Just brilliant.
Next image is from Moose Peterson. As you all know, Moose is very well known for his wildlife and aviation photography, but he took up the food challenge. And this is a dish that's new to me. It's called a Dutch baby, which is a fancy breakfast pastry with kind of a pudding cakey filling. And the smoke is very important to this because apparently the steam is what makes this pudding bubble up and rise up within, from what I've read up about Dutch babies. But look at the mood lighting. What do you think here?
Well, Dutch baby is just, it's fun to say, isn't it? I mean, the steam, if it's that much of an integral part of the dish, you definitely need to capture it, right? You definitely want to make sure you are capturing, especially ethnic or regional dishes. You want them to be authentic, right? So getting that steam to look good, and again, it's, we're going to say it again, it's not, you're not lighting it from the back. I mean, you're not lighting it from the front, you're lighting it from the back, you're lighting it from getting that side to be able to see that steam come up. So all the more reason why learning your lighting is so important, because if you miss the steam, then you're missing this shot, especially for this dish, right? So it's very important to know your food, to know what's important with your food, right? And to be able to convey that, because people will, if they know a Dutch baby, if they're from a place where they make Dutch babies, they will know right away if it's inauthentic.
I like what he did with the table setting as well here. Just a tiny glint of light on the fork, so you know that there's a fork there, but it doesn't overly call attention to it. And a part of that, as you can see, I think what he did, we can't see the underside here, but I'll bet he put a grid on this light so that the light doesn't spill. Oops, sorry about that. Light doesn't spill all over the place here. But now I gave you a sneak peek into the next image, so we're going to have to go to that. And Freddie and I were just totally blown away by what Rain Hayes contributed here. And Rain does a lot of work with both infrared and ultraviolet light. In fact, you can see one of her images on a recent Platypod Perspectives interview that Larry Becker did with her on our YouTube channel. We'll get more to the YouTube channel later, but go ahead. What do you have to say about that, Freddie? I
mean, these are remarkable. These are as much food photography as they are fine art. What my first inkling when I saw these is I could see walking into a restaurant and, like, in the vestibule area, seeing these hugely framed big prints in frames as you're walking in through the restaurant. The color, the pop of them is amazing. So I mean, it's just a brilliant idea, different take on food, and it's otherworldly, right, because it's done with UV light. And here's a few more images done this with simply with an orange, a lemon,
onion. But the setup, guys, you wouldn't believe it. She did this in her bathroom.
Right.
Why'd she do it in her bathroom? Because her bathroom has no windows in it. So this way, she covers up her mirror with some black paper and closes the door. Now she's got a good dark room. So the only light hitting that subject is the UV light, which brings out these amazing colors over here. And she's using her Platypod equipment, again, to pitch our equipment a little bit, her Platypod equipment to hold up these special UV flashlights. And again, if you'll go on the YouTube channel and watch Larry Becker's interview with Rain, where she demonstrates flower photography with UV, she'll tell you exactly which lights to buy. They're not all that expensive. If you want to get into UV photography, it's an amazing, amazing field. And we hope we've stimulated some of you to want to do that. Next image, I think we're back to more cupcakes, but we've seen some low-key images. Let's look at some high-key images. Now, the difference between low-key and high-key, for those of you who know your histograms, when you're looking at a histogram on the back of your camera and you see all of that graph is shifted to the left, well, you've got mostly dark pixels in the image. When it's shifted to the right, you've got mostly light pixels in the image. Well, low key means an image that's mostly with dark tones, setting a more dark or more serious mood, whereas high key is an image with mostly light tones, setting a lighter mood. In this case, more of a breakfast feel and all that. And you can see this was obviously done in a beautiful kitchen, or was it? No, this was done in Rain's studio with an artificial background. And Freddie, you've done a lot of work with backgrounds for us. So talk about the background and the setting that you use for some of your food images.
Well, I mean, I've done a lot with, the static backgrounds, but lately in the last, year and a half, I've experimented quite a bit with large screen television, a 50-inch screen, and then started out with stills, right? Take a picture of a kitchen, take a picture of a bar, put it up on the screen. But lately, I've been using AI to generate
with generative fill and all that.
Not even fill, generate my backgrounds.
Great.
So I've got ones where generating a circus. There was a wine bottle and it had a circus theme. So you generate a circus tent, a circus midway carnival setting, and you can use that. And that's why, when I first saw this, I thought, oh, Jamie used the kitchen. And I was pleasantly surprised when I realized it was a background. What I do also like about this a lot is the fact that while it is a very high key, the muffins, the wrappers, the muffin tin is not high key. That would be their low key. So they offset really nicely. So she made a really good use of the dark and the light to offset one another to create a really interesting environment. So really well done.
And just notice how in the left-hand picture, you bring in a lot of that kitchen just to let you know that this is all being done in a kitchen. A little bit of the blueberries on the side here, that's fine. The right-hand side, that cup of milk in here says, I'm having these for breakfast. And you all know how she balanced these so carefully. She probably put a wooden skewer
in there,
in the middle
chopstick
there
or
to
something,
stand it up. But you use the equipment that you've got and the talents that you have to bring together the composition. My friend Rick Salmon loves to say that there's two ways to take a picture. You can either take a picture or make a picture. And food photography is really all about making a picture. And to me, this is just an amazing and beautiful art form. All right, here's one that I found really interesting and exciting. A sandwich image from our friend Kathy Weatherston out in Ireland. And Kathy also mostly does landscapes. If you were at the landscape conference a few months ago, you saw some of her images there. And again, Kathy was just recently interviewed by Larry Becker. And Larry, I'm going to let you give us Kathy's description of this image.
I will give you the words and do no justice to an Irish accent. So I will just do it in my own voice, but I will tell you, Kathy has a wonderful Irish accent. It's a pleasure talking to her. That was a fun show to record. Kathy, about this image, actually these two images, says, wow. Being a wedding and newborn photographer, this was quite the challenge for me. as I've never done food photography before, aside from snapping pics on my phone whenever I'm at a restaurant, LOL. For this shoot, I used my Platypod Extreme with my Elite Platyball to hold my camera. To light the scene, I set up 2 goosenecks on my Platypod Ultra, attaching a lume cube to one and a lume panel to the other. The best part, though, was getting to enjoy the sandwich I made after the shoot. Really enjoyed this challenge, and I was delighted to take part.
Well, you may have wondered, you saw that kind of explosion shot that Kathy did before, and you might have wondered, how did she do that? Well, she took each element and took an image of each element in the explosion and stuck it on a skewer, just held it out in the positions where she wanted it, and then in Photoshop, she deleted the skewers and composited everything together, and there's what she got. Freddie, talk to us a little bit about the lighting and the mirroring and all that, how that's achieved.
Well, the mirroring is a reflective surface, right? The black plastic or dark plastic, reflective plastic, creates that mirror and does it really, really efficient.
What do? You spray paint black paint on the bottom of the plastic?
I mean you can buy black.
Just black acrylic. Okay.
Black acrylic comes like that. Yeah. The only thing you got to keep it really clean, because any nicks or scratches or dust will appear right away. You see it instantly. But yeah, that's just a cool little trick with some acrylic. Yeah.
But again, this explosion, I mean, we were trying to figure out how she did it, and well, now you all know the secret, and you can try that at home. All right, this is one of our last images, I think the last one. And by the way, please stick around because, again, Freddie's going to give you his 7 big tips, and we've got some other information to impart. So talk to us a little bit about this image by Stuart Wood.
Look, when you're shooting a product like Coca-Cola, right? It's very important that you nail down to the client brief. Now, Coca-Cola is very specific about their coloring. Red, their red is iconic. It's been the same for 100-something years. It will remain for another 100 years. So by him leaning into that red, I could see this, really satisfying a creative brief from Coke. Really nicely done with the smoke behind it. One of the things I will say, with that front lighting, you get a little specular highlight there across the bottle. That's one of those situations where I probably would have gone into Photoshop and removed that out a bit. But the lighting glow through the bottle is really well done, really fantastic. Because look, Coca-Cola is a dark liquid, and getting that pop of light through the bottle from the back is really challenging with dark liquids, right?
Here's a variation Stuart did. Stuart is a macro, not quite wildlife, I would say insect photographer, and he has a love for spiders, so he couldn't help himself. He stuck a little spider on top. But notice also, because he was using some smoke and backlighting it, you can achieve some different effects here, as you can see between the two pictures. Take a look at the setup, and Freddie, maybe you can break this down for us a little bit and explain what Stuart did back here.
So he's got those. So if you look at the front, you've got those two light strips toward the front of the bottle, and that's the drive for those is really to help create that shape of that bottle, right? Look, the lighting is what's good. Photography is a two-dimensional art form, right? So in order to create the three-dimensional look, you need to do that with your lighting. And that's what those two front lights are meant to do, right? Create the shape of the bottle. And then using that red background, you could see here, he popped a hole in the back to get his light right up against the back of that bottle. Looks like a speed light or some other kind of small flash. He's got a little bit of a diffuser on it, and I'd hazard a guess he popped a lot of light out of that little flash to get that light to come back in through the bottle and really illuminate the image from the front. through the back to the front. So yeah, I mean, really, really well done. Nicely done.
Complex shot, but I think very rewarding in the way that he did it. And
Beverage is the hardest.
Yeah.
Beverage is the hardest.
And there's a little video showing how Stuart
put it
shot
together.
that over there, put it all together. Amazing. All right. Here's another shot that is taken from our YouTube channel, and I'm telling you about this for a very specific reason. We would like everyone to go over to our YouTube channel and subscribe. Now, this is a video that was just recently recorded by Kirsten Lutz, who does videos for us practically every other week on all kinds of techniques in photography. Here, Kirsten is doing a beverage shot that was actually inspired by none other than Freddie Clark. And Freddie, they're going to see this in the video, but why don't you tell us what Kirsten did to get this bottom off of here, and he's actually pouring beer from the bottom through. It's very hard to explain without seeing the video, so you're gonna have to go there, but go ahead.
So the whole point when you're doing a pour shot is repeatability, right? You want to be able to get that beer to come out of that bottle when you want it. So you can't just lift up a beer bottle and pour it. You're not going to get that repeatability. You're not going to get that bottle exactly where you want it. So the whole trick is basically to make the bottle a funnel, right? And to do that, you have to cut off the bottom of the bottle, which is way harder than you would think. You can't use a glass cutter. The best way, and he goes into it in the video really well, is you take some string, you take a flammable substance,
such as acetone, like nail polish
remover, right? You dip that string into nail polish remover. You light the string on fire. Don't do this indoors, and keep the acetone away from the match after you get that twine going. And then you get a bucket of cold water. Have a bucket of cold water standing by, and you take that bottle as it's on fire, and you dip it into a bucket of cold water. And if you let that heat get hot enough from the fire, the cold water's cold enough, that bottle will just pop right off. It's amazing when you see it happen.
And I would suggest wearing some safety glasses.
Yeah, wear some safety glasses, maybe even some gloves,
While you're doing all that. But again, for the details on this, the best way to find this video is to go to platypod.com, and on the menu, you're going to see here where it says Learn. You want to click on that, and that's going to take you to our educational hub or blog site, where every week we post 3 articles. One of them at least is usually a pointer to our video. You click in here, you'll find this near the top of the list because it's a very recent video. Click on Kirsten's video, watch that. I think when you see him do the trick with popping the bottom off the bottle, it's amazing. But also he's going to have a follow-up video on how to light all this and get this beautiful pour shot. So please head over to YouTube, go to the Platypod channel. You can just search Platypod channel on YouTube, subscribe, and every single week we're going to have a nice video. Also, Larry Becker every 2 weeks puts out a video called Platypod Perspectives, where he interviews one of the Platypod pros or just a professional photographer about an interesting image that they've done. These videos are between about 5 and 10 minutes a piece, and I think you will find that they are delightful. Larry, if you'd like to describe our discounts, please.
Absolutely. The cool thing about the discounts at Platypod is you're going to see something that you will discover when you go to the Platypod website. So when you go there and you click on shop, that you want to look at products, you'll see this. Now let me deconfuse this for you. It's an instant loyalty rebate, and what it allows you to do is purchase any collection of products. And you go, well, I'm going to wait till the Extreme Platypod is on sale, or I'm going to wait till the Ergo ball head is on sale. Well, you are making your own deals here. So what you can do is just put a multiple of items into your cart, and when that multiple of items hits $400, you get $50 off. Or if you go to 500, it's 75 off. If you go to 600, it's 100 off. This is a fantastic deal, and it's available right away, and you'll see that explained there on the Platypod website.
And just to note that our promo codes in these cases are stackable. So if you apply one promo code, just put it in once, enter it, and then you'll be able to enter another one in the discount code box. And we're using the word discount code and promo code interchangeably. But Larry's right. This is a great way to build your own bundle. Larry, just your comments on the YouTube channel. We didn't mention the third star that we have on the YouTube channel, which is Riley Arthur, who's a wonderful photographer, and she brings in also, I think, a great bunch of images and a great woman's view on photography as well. She's got stuff recently on newborns, on how to photograph artwork, all kinds of things, projects that you can do with your children. I think you'll find that to be fascinating as well. Larry, any other mentions about the YouTube channel?
Well, the only thing that I would say is if you go to YouTube and you just do a search for Platypod, you're going to find tons of stuff. Like you'll find Moose Peterson talking about the Platypod handle, or you'll find all these photographers, Scott Kelby, talking about a Platypod. But what you want to do is find the Platypod channel. And Dr. T mentioned that very quickly. I don't want you to miss the word channel. So when you do your search at the YouTube website, look for the Platypod channel, and that's where you'll discover all of these learning videos. Now, of course, there's also training videos on individual pieces of equipment. It's like a video manual for some of the things. But the main thing is this kind of education. What we're doing tonight, what we do at Photoshop World, where there's instruction and training from skilled professional photographers, and that teaching happens at the Platypod channel on YouTube.
Absolutely, and I think everybody will find some nice things. Now, stick around for another minute or two because Freddie's about to give his tips, so his 7 great tips for food photography. But before that, don't forget when you go to the Platypod website, sign up for our monthly newsletter. One is coming out this week, and you're going to see some amazing images from 3 wonderful photographers that I think you'll get to enjoy. And as well, for those of you who want to communicate with other Platypod users, we have the Platypod Users official users group on Facebook. And Freddie, I'm going to hand it over to you now to go through your 7 best food tips. Go ahead.
Okay, so I think I mentioned most of these, but we'll start with what you put in front of your camera is just as important as what you do with your camera. So make sure that you are using the freshest elements. Don't plate something and leave it in front of the lights too long and let it dry out. You want everything to be fresh and looking good. So don't table till you're ready to shoot. You can have multiple heroes, right? I'll usually have one plate that I do my lighting prep with and get everything in position, and then when I'm ready to shoot, I come in with the actual hero that's been kept fresh. Everything's perfect. Everything's ready to go. And I drop that down. We kept talking about the angles a lot, about your lighting, right? Not coming straight from here with the light over your lens, but moving it from the sides, backlighting it from the sides. Some things, you play with it, move the light around, and work the angles, but, get that light placement in order to give yourself the best benefit to get those textures, to get that look. Consider your aperture, right? A couple of the shots we did today had really nice depth of field going on about them. Granted, when you're doing product work, you got to be very careful with labels and trademarks, but if it's editorial, if it's stuff for a restaurant, make use of the aperture, right? Focus people where you want them to look. Experiment with the different angles of your camera, right? Right now, it's very in vogue for everything to be shot straight down, which is fine. But then there's the 3/4 perspective. There's the diner perspective. There's straight on, right? Certain things lend themselves better to different camera perspectives than others. So work them. Work those angles, play with it, and see which works best for your actual subject. Look, natural light. The next one, natural light is great, but you can't always rely upon it, right? One of the things about being a professional photographer is being able to recreate things on demand. So if you shoot mostly natural, that's fantastic, but sometimes you're going to run out of natural light. Sometimes a cloud's going to come by. Make sure you can create your own light when necessary. We said this one a few times as well. Tell a story, right? Tell a story with all of your photographs, but food photography, tell a story. Yes, it can be harder. One of our pros did bring up the fact that, sometimes it is harder to tell a story with food, but you can tell a story by showing us the environment, showing us the ingredients, showing us hands, right? A lot of times, cutting. Tell a story, use your creativity and get that story behind it. And then the last one I'll say is, what we talked about, use your resources, right? You're creating a world in like 3x5 or 2x4, depending on how big of a tabletop you got going on. But use things that will allow you to create those different backgrounds, create different textures, create different scenes, and just try to play with that to get more creativity out of your photography.
Last but not least, I will encourage everyone, if you want to meet some of the pros that we've talked about today, you can head over on the Platypod website. Just go to the homepage, scroll to the bottom, and you'll get a link to our Platypod Pros page where we have about 60 Platypod Pros, and you can get to see their work. You can get to see Freddie's work too by just clicking on his picture, and it'll take you over to his website or their Instagram pages, and you'll be able to see the work of these wonderful photographers. And I want to thank you all for joining us at another Kelby One conference. And Larry, I'm going to have you take it over from here and close us out.
Very good. Dr. T, thank you so much. I always get so much out of this, and I know our viewers do too. And now you see that it was definitely worth sticking around and learning from Dr. T and all these wonderful photographers who supplied food photography. And then, of course, Freddie Clark. Man, you know this stuff upside down and backwards, and it is, all the recipes for food photography. Great stuff. Thank you very much, Freddie and Dr. T. Thank you for the educational evening.